I was 3 months pregnant when Ethan abandoned me on a sinking cruise liner, all because his childhood sweetheart had let out a shriek, saying she was terrified of water. I begged him to save me and our baby, but he shoved me off the lifeboat. You know how to swim, don't you? You won't die. When I was pulled from the ocean, I'd lost the baby and needed surgery, but I couldn't reach Ethan to sign the consent form. Then I saw her social media post. True love shines through the storm, Mr. Brooks, I'm all yours, in the photo. They were wrapped in the same blanket, soaked through and barely clothed. Once I recovered and was discharged from the hospital, I drove straight to Tibet. Ethan, who hadn't contacted me in a month, blew up my phone like a man possessed. Amelia, the wedding dress is ready. Are you calling off the wedding? After saying goodbye to the road trip convoy, I turned on my backup phone, and hundreds of missed calls from Ethan popped up on the screen. When I answered, Ethan demanded through gritted teeth, Amelia, where the hell have you been? You don't answer your phone. You don't reply to texts. My parents reminded you several times to go for the dress fitting, but you were nowhere to be found. Do you even want to get married anymore? I stared at the signed divorce papers in my hand. Then let's call it off, Amelia. What the hell is wrong with you now? You were the one who said we'd just get the license and skip the ceremony. Now the invitations are all sent out, and you're backing out. There was noise in the background, and a sweet female voice was soothing him. His tone softened once she calmed him down. Wait there. I'll come pick you up at home, and we'll go get the dress fitted first. The dress was custom made, the most expensive part of our low-key wedding. I'd fantasized 1,000 times about walking down the aisle in the most beautiful gown, with all our family and friends watching now. I couldn't have cared less. Ethan had gotten a new car, a flashy sapphire blue model. I slid into the passenger seat. The sun was blinding, so I flipped down the sun visor and saw lipstick scrawled on the mirror. Mr. Brooks loves Miss Lane. Ethan offered an explanation out of nowhere. I got rid of my old car. It was too cheap. Didn't match my status. That car had been his birthday gift, something I'd scrimped and saved for months to buy him. I'd picked out everything, from the color to the interior details. It had been replaced, just like me. He pulled up in front of a bridal shop. I didn't move to get out. When did you switch places? I remember I ordered from Atelier. Ethan pulled me out of the car, answering casually. A friend said this place has nicer gowns. I loved silk wedding dresses. But this shop was filled floor to ceiling with over-the-top ball gowns. I'd already placed my order, but he'd changed everything just because it suited Scarlett's taste. The attendant herded me into the fitting room. The dress fit perfectly, but it clashed with every part of who I was, just like Ethan and me now. Ethan looked at me, and for a rare moment, his eyes lit up with awe. But I knew it was only the dress he was admiring. He was deliberately avoiding looking at me, picturing Scarlett in this gown instead. This one's perfect, he said, deciding without a second thought. I said nothing as he pulled me away. Once we were back in the car, he asked, why the long face after the fitting? You already got to go off on your little trip. What are you still upset about? How long are you gonna hold a grudge over one little thing? On last month's cruise, when the ship hit a reef and started sinking, he pushed me off the lifeboat, all because Scarlett was afraid of water, and I'd taken swimming lessons 10 years prior. I'd lost our baby, and he'd found his true love. He'd all but forgotten the whole incident. When I didn't answer, he kept on lecturing me. Of all places you could have gone, why the high plateau? You were pregnant, for God's sake. You're not 20 anymore. Can't you act a little more responsible? Once you're a mother, you have to be steady. That baby is your responsibility now. My voice was ice, and he's not yours. When you pushed me off that ship, did you stop to think about this responsibility in my stomach? Ethan looked away. Don't twist my words. I'm not buying it. We're going to get you checked out. Make sure the baby's okay. I looked up. We were parked outside the obstetrics and gynecology clinic. The doctor who'd performed my DC looked at me, concerned. You were just here last month for your miscarriage. Are you feeling unwell? Ethan had been slouched in a chair scrolling through his phone, but he froze. Miscarriage? Amelia, you had a miscarriage behind my back? When? The waiting room was full, and every eye in the room turned to us. I stared at his betrayed expression, and suddenly remembered 2 months prior. When we'd first found out I was pregnant, he'd spun me around in this very lobby, overjoyed. When we'd gotten married, we'd been tight on money. We'd had the license for years but never a ceremony. It wasn't until I got pregnant, when we were finally financially stable, that I brought up a wedding again, and he'd been just as eager. But now, his coldness cut deeper than I could bear. In 2 short months, he'd found his true love, and my love had sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Someone came over to de-escalate things. Ethan frowned and pulled me into the stairwell. June 3rd, I lifted my gaze and watched the anger on his face turn to stone. That was the day the cruise ship went down. I'd been left treading in freezing water for 5 hours before anyone pulled me out. Meanwhile, he'd already confessed his feelings to Scarlett and gone home with her to a hotel room. Ethan's voice softened. Did you get follow-up care after the surgery? Don't hurt yourself like this. You went through all that pain and didn't even tell me. Then you ran off to the plateau alone. Didn't even rest properly. He reached out and put an arm around my shoulders. Let's get you checked out anyway. Don't want any lasting damage. We can have more kids later. A phone rang in the empty stairwell, a love song. Ethan always used the default ringtone except for Scarlett. For her, he'd always go out of his way for little, one-of-a-kind gestures. Scarlett's voice purred from the other end, sweet and coddling. Mr. Brooks, are you free today? I've been thinking that cruise accident was so scary. I need to learn how to swim to protect myself. Will you be my personal coach? I've been terrified of water since I was little. I only trust you. Ethan ate up the attention, a small smile tugging at his lips without him even noticing. He hung up and glanced at me, annoyance flashing in his eyes. If you hadn't had the miscarriage, we wouldn't be dealing with all this hassle. Forget the checkup today. Something came up last minute. Have my mom take you another day. He hurried off, not even bothering to take me with him. I pushed open the stairwell door, walked past all the pitying stares in the lobby, and hailed a cab. It was already July. The air was thick and sweltering, so heavy I could barely breathe. It felt like drowning all over again. My chest ached, but I couldn't shed a single tear. When I got home, Ethan's mom called. Her voice was stern. Amelia, I heard about the miscarriage. Such a shame you couldn't carry it to term. In a couple days, I'll take you to get checked out. Make sure this doesn't affect your ability to have kids later. I said nothing, and her tone softened a little. Amelia, you grew up without parents. Your father-in-law and I have always thought of you as our own daughter. Don't blame me for speaking plainly. One baby's gone, but life goes on. I'm just worried about your health. You need to be able to give this family an heir. Once, I'd truly thought of her as a mother. I believed marrying Ethan would give me a whole family again, but now I saw the truth behind her fine words. Every sentence was about one thing: my womb. Tomorrow I'm having someone come over to hold a memorial service for the baby. I'll have Ethan come home to pay his respects too. The baby's gone, but your marriage still matters. I flipped my backup phone face down on the table. If I stopped listening, maybe the pain would stop too. Probably because I hadn't eaten all day. My stomach twisted in sharp cramps when I lay down in bed. I thought about going downstairs to grab something to eat, but nausea rolled over me and I had no appetite. This wedding house was full of him, every corner a reminder that made my skin crawl. I broke out in a cold sweat, spots dancing before my eyes. I grabbed my phone to order medicine, only to see Scarlett had posted again and she'd specifically sent me a screenshot. She waited until she knew I'd seen it, then deleted the message. Mr. Brooks is my private swimming coach today. The photo showed a bright blue pool and Scarlett in a bikini, taking a selfie, and she was sitting right on Ethan's lap. Ethan's face wasn't in the frame, but the tattoo on his abdomen was impossible to miss. It was my initials once. It had been a symbol of our love. The stomach cramps hit harder, ringing in my ears and bile rising in my throat. My phone slipped from my hand and thudded onto the bed. I don't know how long passed before I felt well enough to stand. I walked to the bedroom door and heard Ethan come home. He was on a video call with Scarlett as he climbed the stairs. His voice was soft, tender, full of affection. I'm going on a business trip to the capital next month. Wanna come with me? Scarlett laughed. Of course I will. We'll leave traces of our love everywhere we go. I slid down against the door, curling into a ball on the floor. No one wants to let go of someone they love with all their heart. But when silence and heartache pile up high enough, even when it hurts more than you can bear, it's time to walk away. Once, Ethan and I had leaned on each other. We'd started as two lowly interns at the company and worked our way up to department directors. We'd seen Harbor City at 4 a.m. We'd pulled 6 straight months of overtime. We'd postponed, then canceled our wedding, all for one big project. During the busiest, hardest days, we'd packed each other lunchboxes. By the time we had a minute to open them, the food had already gone bad. We'd comforted each other. Once we made it, once we had our wedding, we'd go to the plateau together to see the golden sunrise over the snow-capped mountains. But in the end, I'd gone alone. I sifted through the embers of our love, and found not a single spark left. The next night, I was woken by the sound of wailing horns and funeral music. Ethan's mom had actually hired a funeral band to come to the house. She'd even set up a memorial tablet for our unborn baby. Ethan had been ordered to sit vigil. He kept his head down the whole time, tapping away at his phone screen. When I got closer, I saw he was texting Scarlett. "My mom's making such a big deal out of nothing. It's just a dead baby. Doesn't even have a name. A tiny little fertilized egg. Why do I have to sit through a vigil? It's not like Amelia died. That hot spring resort I promised to take you to yesterday? We'll have to go another time." I went back to our bedroom, logged into the company system, and submitted my resignation. I never liked Harbor City, but it was Ethan's home, so I'd stayed here for years. I never spoke the local dialect, never liked the local food. I was always an outsider, never quite fitting in. Now, I was determined to start a new life, so it was time to leave. Before I left, I went to the office to wrap up my resignation and ran straight into Scarlett bringing Ethan lunch. "You got fired?" There was defiance in her eyes. "Serves you right. I told Mr. Brooks a long time ago that tech isn't a field for women. Look at you stuck here all these years. And now you're leaving anyway." She patted my shoulder. "It's the same with love, Amelia. The wrong person, even if you're married, will end up leaving sooner or later. Besides, does anyone even know you're married? Other than that piece of paper, there's nothing there." I brushed her hand away and walked straight toward the door. She thought I didn't know that for the past 2 months, she and Ethan had been sneaking up to the company rooftop. Lunch break ended at 2, but whenever she brought him food, Ethan would stay up on the roof until 4 before coming back down to work. He was associate director of marketing, traveled a lot for work, and barely showed up to the office as it was. He was never home, either off having the time of his life with Scarlett. No doubt, but after today, he probably wouldn't be laughing much longer. When I resigned, Mr. Hale had a long, heart-to-heart talk with me. The gist was simple. They were going to fire Ethan. Before, I'd been director of RD, a core member of the team, because of our relationship. The company had gone easy on Ethan, not wanting to embarrass me. But now that I was dead set on leaving, the associate director of marketing position could finally go to someone else. Mr. Hale said, "Chairman Thorne's son just graduated and came back home. He wants him to take over the director position." "Sounds good to me," I said. It was almost noon by the time I walked out the front doors. Ethan was hurrying in to clock in, late as usual. When he saw me carrying a box, he looked confused at first, then understanding dawned on his face. "Good thing too. The wedding's this Sunday. Go home and rest. Once we're married, you won't have to run around anymore. It'll be easier on you." Scarlett stood behind me, her voice sweet and teasing. "Mr. Brooks, are you looking down on career women?" She was a makeup artist, flew all over the country for jobs. I knew of at least 4 or 5 times Ethan had told me he was on a business trip, when really he'd been traveling with her. In all our years of marriage, Ethan and I had never gone on a trip together except for that cruise. Our long-planned trip to Tibet had been pushed back again and again, but that time, when I'd suggested the cruise, he hadn't said no, only because Scarlett was going too. I looked up. Ethan was smiling brightly, as tender as he'd been when we first fell in love. "Scarlett, you know you two aren't the same." That tenderness had belonged to someone else for a long time. My team wanted to throw me a going-away party, but I didn't want to fuss. I left quietly, which only made Ethan more certain. He thought I couldn't hack it in the industry anymore, that I'd lost the baby, lost my spirit, and was going home to be a housewife. He brushed past me coldly, saying only, "After the wedding, you'll have everything you wanted. Knock off the drama and the games." I smiled. "Fine, no more drama. I'm done with you, Ethan." "I want a divorce," he scoffed. "Amelia, did getting fired mess with your head? Harbor City's expensive. If you quit your job and divorce me, you'll have to slink out of town with your tail between your legs." Finally, he dropped the mask and showed his cruel, bitter side. I wasn't surprised. I didn't even glance at him. I just hailed a cab and left. When I got home, the bridal shop had already delivered the dress. The enormous ball gown took up half the closet. I stared at the ornate skirt, but couldn't summon a single spark of the excitement I'd felt when we first started planning. I grabbed a pair of scissors and cut the skirt to shreds. Then I took off my wedding ring and threw it in the trash too. The garbage truck swallowed the white tulle, staining it with filth just like our messy, shattered love. I went back to my hometown, Maple Creek. I hadn't been back since my parents died. I'd left for school in Harbor City, gotten married, settled down and never looked back. There was a small, slightly run-down apartment waiting for me there. I'd barely been there 2 days when Ethan showed up at my door. He stood there in a face mask, his crisp tailored suit completely out of place in the run-down stairwell. "What are you doing here? You haven't been back in all the years since your parents died. Now, when we're busiest with the wedding plans, you run off here to hide?" He said it lightly, almost teasingly. "The wedding's in a couple days. Figured I'd come share the good news with your parents." He sat down on the couch, waiting for me to bring him juice. I walked out of the kitchen and threw the glass of juice right in his face. "What gives you the right to call them that? Share what good news?" "Ethan, I'm telling you one last time. I want a divorce." I pulled out the divorce papers and slammed them down in front of him. Perfect timing. I already signed them. I was gonna mail them to you. But now we can hash this out face to face. Ethan wiped the juice off his face, stunned. "You're divorcing me just because I accidentally pushed you off the boat? After all these years together, one mistake isn't worth throwing everything away over?" He reached out to pull me into his arms again. I stepped back, repulsed, not wanting to get juice on me. "Amelia, you're avoiding me?" His eyes went wide, hurt written all over his face. "I'm heartbroken about the baby too. Do you have to stab me in the heart with this divorce?" I unlocked my phone and swiped through screenshot after screenshot from the past few weeks. Scarlett always did this, sent me photos then deleted them. She wanted to flaunt her true love in my face, but didn't dare let Ethan find out. Hotel photos, pool photos, even pictures of them kissing. She bragged about the homemade lunch Ethan had made her, but I recognized it. I'd made it myself. Ethan had said the cafeteria food was terrible, that he wanted my cooking. Then he'd turned around and given the lunch I'd stayed up making to Scarlett. The hotel they frequented was a famous luxury couples resort in Harbor City, known for all kinds of romantic amenities. I had a bottle of perfume from that hotel, a soft rose scent, when Ethan gave it to me. He said he'd smelled it at a hotel on a business trip, thought it suited me, and specially asked the staff to sell him a full bottle as a birthday gift. But it was just a free gift from the couple's suites, the cheapest thing they had. Ethan wiped the last of the juice off his face. His expression shifted several times as he looked at the photos. Finally, he pressed his lips together and said, "Amelia, you don't understand. Men and women are different. For men, physical and emotional are separate. Sleeping with her doesn't mean I love her. You're the only one in my heart. It was just sex, nothing more." I could barely believe he had the nerve to say something like that. Just then, Ethan's phone rang, the love song ringtone he only had for Scarlett. He looked at me. "Awkward, answer it," I said, a scornful smile tugging at my lips. "Show me what just sex looks like." When he answered, Scarlett immediately caught sight of the shabby old room behind him. "Mr. Brooks, what dump are you in? Come home quick. I have a surprise for you." She said it playfully, then dropped her hand from her chest, revealing bare skin. Ethan's ears turned bright red, and his eyes darted down against his will. Scarlett giggled, leaning in closer to tease him about his red ears. They looked like two giddy teenagers in first love, the air thick with sickly sweet infatuation. I let out a cold laugh, cutting through the moment. Even garbage gets picked up by strays. Scarlett's face fell. Ethan snapped back to reality and hung up. "Amelia, don't say that. I have feelings too. You're hurting me. There's so much proof that I love you. Do I really have to say it over and over?" He was handsome, and when he put on that hurt, pleading look, it would have made anyone hesitate. But I wasn't the old Amelia anymore, the one who'd forgive him 100 times over. Now I just listened with disdain, not feeling a single thing. "Amelia, we've been through so much together. That cruise was supposed to be romantic, perfect. It only went wrong because of the reef. But it was still my promise to you. I took you on the trip I promised. I'm giving you the wedding I promise." He spoke with quiet intensity. "Amelia, love means always feeling like you owe the other person more. I know I've let you down, so I want to make it up to you properly. I already talked to my parents. They're covering the whole wedding. We'll do it big. Let everyone know we're married. Sound good?" I looked him in the eye. "Ethan, do you really think this is just me throwing a fit? I hate ball gowns, I hate Scarlett, and most of all, I hate you tainted, messed up, tangled up with her. Don't use the same tricks on me that you use on her. It makes me sick." As I spoke, Ethan's phone buzzed nonstop in his pocket. It was Scarlett, calling again. I glanced at the screen. His lock screen was a photo of them cheek to cheek in matching outfits, taken on the lifeboat during the cruise. "Answer it. Wouldn't want your little girlfriend throwing a tantrum when you keep her waiting." Ethan put on a long-suffering look as he answered. But his hands moved fast, almost eagerly. Scarlett's voice came through. Ethan, I'm on the rooftop right now. If you say one wrong thing, I'll jump, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Why are you with Amelia? You promised you only loved me. I've put up with so much for you. I've never been the other woman before. If it weren't for your mom, I'd be the one married to you. Her voice cracked with tears. If you hurt me again, I might as well just die. As she spoke, she stepped closer to the edge. Ethan's eyes were locked on the screen. Scarlett, don't do anything rash. Listen to me. Step back, okay? I'm on my way right now. He didn't even hang up. He left his coat where it was and bolted out the door. He paused on the stairs and looked back at me. Amelia, I have to go make sure she's okay. Something terrible could happen. Are you? I gave him a mocking smile. Save the act. If you don't hurry up and your little girlfriend actually jumps, it'll be my fault, won't it? Ethan took the stairs 3 at a time. I closed the door and counted the seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Ethan's phone started ringing. It wasn't Scarlett, it was Mr. Hale. Why are you firing me? Just because of some Nepo baby? I've worked at this company for years. I've earned my place. What will the team think if you fire me? This is how you repay loyal employees. I could hear Ethan's furious shouts all the way up from several floors below. A few seconds later, his voice turned cold and certain. I get it. This is Amelia's doing, isn't it? She was in your office forever the day she quit. This was her plan all along, wasn't it? Yeah, I cheated on her. So what? I haven't done anything else wrong by her. He was walking back up the stairs now, his voice getting closer. I gave her the wedding she wanted. I gave her the trip. The miscarriage was just bad luck. She's already made my life hell. Now she has to come after my job too. Amelia, open up. Explain yourself. I've given you everything. And now you're trying to ruin me? He banged on the door hard. The old apartment had a heavy metal security door. I'd locked it tight. Ethan couldn't break in. He could only yell from the hallway, demanding I let him in. I put in my headphones and turned on a cheerful folk song. In the end, Ethan was fired that same day. I went back to the office to finish my final handover. Mr. Hale tried to get me to stay. Ethan's gone. You don't have to leave. Ethan heard him, and his anger flared even hotter. Amelia, you've been avoiding me for days, and now I've got you right where I want you. He dropped his box and stormed toward me. You quit your job, so you had to drag me down with you, huh? Even now, you're bad-mouthing me to Mr. Hale. He yelled on purpose, making a big scene for everyone to see. Mr. Hale gave me a pained look. I nodded, and he had his secretary pull up security footage on the big projector screen in the middle of the office. Scarlett and Ethan were on the company rooftop, kissing passionately, unable to keep their hands off each other. The timestamp read for 30 p.m., last Tuesday work hours. Getting paid by the company while you fool around with your mistress on the roof. Ethan, I wanted to let you down quietly, but you had to make a spectacle of yourself. There's more, but I won't show it. No one needs to see that garbage. Mr. Hale sighed. His secretary nodded and pulled up Ethan's attendance records right away. In the past 6 months, you've shown up to the office 20 days total, and every time, you showed up late and left early. A lot of your expense reports are padded with personal charges too. Ethan, you don't deserve to be associate director of marketing. Step aside and let someone competent take the job. Before, I put up with you out of respect for Amelia. Losing her would have been a huge blow to the company, so we tolerated you. But now, there's no reason to hold back. Ethan went pale. He stood there frozen, under the weight of every stare in the room. Disdain, contempt, mockery. But he still wouldn't back down. He turned on me, voice sharp. Amelia, you're doing all this just to get your divorce, aren't you? Well, newsflash. The harder you push, the less I'm gonna agree to it. I'd expected as much. Then we'll see each other in court. Hope you're okay with everyone knowing what kind of person you are. That night, Ethan's parents drove all the way to Maple Creek to see me. Amelia, you grew up without parents. Ever since you started dating Ethan and married him, we've treated you like our own daughter. Ethan's mother held her teacup, speaking with the authority of an elder. Ethan's been foolish, strayed from the right path. We'll set him straight. But you can't throw around the word divorce every time something goes wrong. Marriage takes forgiveness. I said nothing, which only made her more convinced she was right. The wedding invitations are all sent out. The whole neighborhood knows we're having a celebration. The wedding's this Sunday, 2 days from now. If you back out now, it's not just the money we'll lose. What will people think of us? I lifted my eyes and studied her carefully. She looked just like Ethan. Same thick skin, same sense of entitlement. I'd thought she'd at least pretend to care about my feelings, but she dropped the act after barely 2 sentences. Our broken marriage. Ethan's cheating, none of that mattered to her. The only thing that mattered was her reputation. Ethan's father said very little, but sat there quietly, clearly backing his wife up. I had no doubt Ethan had put them up to this. They wanted me to meekly accept a broken marriage, to look the other way while he cheated. Once, I'd thought Ethan's parents truly cared about me. Ethan's mom had given me hand-knit sweaters and scarves matching sets, the same as Ethan's. She didn't know anything about jewelry, and bought me piles of fake gemstones online. I'd taken them as a kind gesture, never said a word about them being fake. It wasn't until recently that I found out the sweaters and scarves weren't hand-knit at all. She'd bought them from a distant relative out in the countryside. Since moving to the city and playing the wealthy housewife, she'd never bothered to knit anything herself. And those fake gemstones, she'd gotten them for a couple bucks each from a live stream sale. She'd told me they were worth thousands, just because she knew I'd never call her out on it. Scarlett wants to marry him so bad, doesn't she? Convince Ethan to sign the divorce papers, and he can run off and marry his true love, live happily ever after. Ethan's father spoke firmly. No. His mother's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. That Scarlett girl? Homewrecker. Anyone can see she's no good. A woman like that doesn't belong in our family. She smiled at me. Amelia, we watched you grow up. You and Ethan have years of history. You're the only one we trust. They'd only moved to Harbor City from the countryside a few years ago, but they already acted like old money aristocracy. Then we have nothing left to talk about. See you in court. I didn't hold back. I pushed them both out the door and left them standing in the dark stairwell. The day before the wedding, Ethan showed up at my door with an invitation. He said he and Scarlett were getting married, and he wanted me to come, to wish them well as a friend. That way, everyone would think it was an amicable divorce, that he wasn't a bad person. In exchange, he'd sign the divorce papers and leave me the house in Harbor City. Only a few days had passed since we'd last seen each other, but he looked like he'd aged years, gaunt, exhausted. We can't let all the wedding plans go to waste. My mom said Scarlett can take your place, but Amelia, deep down, I still want you. I could smell alcohol on his breath when he leaned in. Ethan drank at business dinners, part of the job, but I'd always hated the smell of liquor. After we got married, whenever he had to drink, he'd either get a hotel room for the night, or stand outside in the cold for an hour until the smell faded before he dared come inside. Then, when he'd found his true love in Scarlett, he'd stop coming home altogether. On the rare occasions he did come home, it was only because Scarlett had kicked him out for reeking of alcohol. He wasn't that man anymore, the one who'd stand out in the cold just because I asked him to. But today, the smell was faint. He'd clearly tried to air it out, but I didn't feel a single flicker of gratitude for the gesture. Ethan asked, Amelia, what do I have to do to earn your forgiveness? Should I have been the one to die on that cruise, instead of our baby? His face was twisted with pain, his eyes bloodshot, but when I looked into his eyes, all I saw was his impatient face. Right before the ship went down, in front of everyone, he'd pointed at a trembling Scarlett and told the rescue crew, this is my wife, she's pregnant, she needs to go first, and me, the one who was actually pregnant, he'd left behind in danger. My cries and pleas had only earned me an annoyed glance. It's just a little water, you know how to swim, you have a life jacket, you won't die. Scarlett's terrified of water. If she goes in, she'll be traumatized, floating in that freezing ocean. I'd felt our baby slipping away from me. Little by little, fear and despair wrapped around me so tight I'd almost unclipped my life jacket, just to let the sea take me. But I'd survived, and I'd come out of it with a resolve that would never break. On the day of the wedding, I showed up, just as promised. Ethan was waiting for me in the groom's dressing room. When I walked in, he handed me a large garment bag. Inside was that ball gown wedding dress. I'd thrown it in the trash, watched the garbage truck take it away, but Ethan had fished it out, washed it, fixed it, and brought it here. Amelia, I know you don't like this one, but you looked so beautiful in it. If we could do it all over again, would you marry me in this dress? He looked at me with so much hope, begging me to put it on. I stared back at him coldly. Didn't move a finger. Right, you don't like this dress. I can't force you. He sighed, slumping in defeat. Amelia, after you left, I realized you're everywhere in my life. I can't live without you. I never could. In the morning by the sink, I see you helping me shave. In the kitchen, I see you cooking big dinners. In the closet, all the perfectly matched suits you laid out for me. Only now do I get it. What I had with Scarlett was just a fling, all hormones and excitement. What we have is real life, steady and lasting. He gave me a bitter, self-deprecating smile. It's too late, isn't it? He never got an answer from me. He stood there for a long time, grief piling up in his eyes. Amelia, I bought that silk wedding dress you loved so much. I know you'll never wear it for me again, but I wanted it to be one last memory of us. Can you forgive me? For cheating on you, for hurting you so badly? I was starting to lose my patience. No, I can't, Ethan. If you brought me here just to say all this, save it. We'll wait for the court's decision. Ethan let out a bitter laugh, like he'd just woken up from a dream. He pulled out the signed divorce papers from the other side of the room. Amelia, I didn't think you'd be in such a hurry. You won't even give me a minute to talk about old times. I stopped and turned back to him. Voice steady, Ethan. The moment you betrayed me, there were no more old times worth talking about between us. His voice cracked as he raised it. That silk dress. It's in the dressing room next door. Do you want to see it? No, there's no point. When I walked out of the dressing room, Scarlett was standing by the door in a wedding dress. She'd been listening. Were you flirting with my Ethan again? You're getting divorced. Stop hanging all over him. I'm the bride today. She held her head high, wearing that very silk gown. I found this in the next dressing room. It must be a surprise from Mr. Brooks. It's so much nicer than the other one. She lifted her skirt and walked past me. Move out of the way. Doesn't it feel awkward, the ex-wife showing up to something like this? I looked back. Through the dressing room door, I could see Ethan staring at the silk dress with wonder in his eyes. But this time, Scarlett wasn't the one he was seeing. The wedding started without a hitch. Ethan's parents were furious, but there was nothing they could do. To them, having no bride at all was worse than marrying Scarlett. Mr. Brooks, do you take Ms. Lane to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, for richer or poorer, to love and to cherish, as long as you both shall live. Ethan's gaze drifted over Scarlett's shoulder, straight to me, sitting in the back row. I do. When it was Scarlett's turn, she spat out the words, voice full of rage. I'm not marrying you. Ethan, you bastard. In her other hand, she held a fruit knife. She drove it into him without hesitation. Chaos erupted. Ethan's parents looked horrified, like they were about to faint. Scarlett's hands were covered in blood, but she wore a smile of pure satisfaction. Ethan, I told you. I want true love. You lied to me, made a fool out of me. Why should you get to be happy? Her expression took me back to 2 hours earlier. After Scarlett left Ethan's dressing room, she'd found me. Ethan doesn't look at me like he loves me anymore. Why? Why does he look at me like he's really seeing you? I'd pulled out my phone and played her a voice recording. It was what Ethan had said back in the tiny apartment in Maple Creek, how he'd sworn up and down that Scarlett was just a fling, nothing serious, not real love. What does he think I am? I didn't answer. I just said, that tattoo on Ethan's abdomen? They're my initials. Once I thought that meant true love too. The truth was, Ethan was just a trap. Shock and fury spread across Scarlett's face. Impossible to hide. She bit her lip, fists clenched. He lied to me this whole time. He said you two were just married on paper, that he never loved you. I put up with everyone calling me a homewrecker. I even put up with his awful parents. And this is what I get. My love had sunk to the bottom of the ocean. But what about Scarlett's so-called true love? Just foam on the waves, here 1 second and gone the next. I pulled myself back to the present. The pure, romantic wedding had turned into a nightmare. The police arrived and took Scarlett away for the assault. Ethan was rushed to the hospital. I turned around. A message popped up on my phone from the road trip group. Next month, Route 318 to Tibet. You in? I thought back to my first trip to Tibet. The golden sunrise over endless snow-capped peaks. The vast open sky. I'd left all my love and hate out on that plateau, and walked away with only one thing, the courage to leave. My love had sunk with the cruise ship, but I'd been saved. All on my own. I unlocked my phone, which had been buzzing nonstop. Dozens of missed calls from Ethan lit up the screen. I pulled out the SIM card and slipped it into my backup phone. I shut it all down, the young love, the years of leaning on each other, the 7-year itch that had broken us. And now, as I set off on Route 318 again, I felt like I was turning myself back on, starting over, reborn. Hey there, could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10. Please, I'm begging you. It really means a lot to me. And if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.